Well, hello and welcome to Dementia Unplugged. I'm Jeannine Forrest, and I'm very happy that you're joining this program. We'll be talking about meaningful activities, particularly for middle and late stages of dementia. So before I start the entire program, I want to let you hear from the president of Dementia Society of America, Kevin Jamieson.
Welcome. Please listen to this important message from the Dementia Society of America. All content, including any potential medical information, is provided as an informational resource only and is not to be used or relied on for any diagnostic or treatment process. It should not be used as a substitute for professional diagnosis, care, and treatment. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any healthcare decisions or for guidance about a specific medical condition. The opinions expressed and the content shared by Dr. Forrest are not necessarily the opinions and content of the Dementia Society of America. Thank you.
Okay, as I start the various webcasts, I'd like to go over sort of the common language of what we mean by dementia. Dementia is sort of an umbrella term that really represents a whole variety of different diseases, conditions that present in sort of neurodegenerative ways. And so there are over 100 different types of dementias. And Alzheimer's is just one, often the most common, but we have others such as vascular, mixed, Lewy body, frontal temporal. The list goes on. And when we're talking specifically about meaningful activities, people may present differently in the beginning stages of each of these different dementias. But over time, we'll be looking at how to provide meaningful activities when there are changes in memory and planning and judgment and speaking. So I just wanted to make sure that the listeners understand that the information is applicable to all forms of dementia, but there is a wide variety in how each of these sort of start out. Kind of want to start out with the question of why. Why are activities important and why should they be meaningful? Well, the idea is that well-planned, well-intentioned activities enhance the quality of remaining life for people with various dementias. Unfortunately, in our science, we do not have a cure for many of these dementias. So we want to focus on what could enhance quality of the remaining life and not necessarily focus on what can no longer be accomplished or what is diminished or changed, but focus on remaining abilities. What can we enhance and support with different types of activities based on current remaining abilities? So I want to kind of start with a few other sort of background guidelines, whether we're looking at early stage all the way through late and final stage. But I want listeners to think about the fact that everything can be considered an activity. So it's not what most people commonly think, it's just sort of leisure time or games or something just to fill time. No. Really start to think about everything that is done with or for a person with dementia can be considered an activity. So let's place the person before the task. And so when we're looking at various activities, the idea is it pleasurable? We could have, someone could be eating or dining, and I have a picture of this yummy looking tomato soup. Now, we can certainly just feed someone or have them eat, but there's a whole different connotation when we talk about pleasurable dining and what that means as an activity. Same thing in terms of hygiene. Hygiene can be considered an enjoyable activity, not just something that should be done to keep someone clean and groomed, but the way in which someone's hair is washed. It could be considered a spa day, the way lotion could be rubbed gently on hands and feet. So the sense of having to assist someone with bathing or showering changes when we talk about making it an enjoyable experience. And a lot of this has to do with the gift of being and being companioned versus just doing. A couple other thoughts. The quality of an activity really is quite dependent on the mental and energy state of the care partner or provider. So if it's done with enjoyment and a sense of, just compassion and love and enthusiasm, that makes the experience of an activity quite different versus if it's done with because this is something I have to do and get it over with and just trying to find something to fill time. It is the quality of that interaction makes or breaks the activity. So we're talking about opportunities for connection and relationship. It's an opportunity to show love and concern. And I like to ask the question, what's more important, for you to be right or for your loved one or for the resident or patient to be happy? That's a question to ask yourself before, during an activity. Is this something that is bringing joy for the moment? Another thought that I see in my private practice, and also some of you may know that I do have 2 other family members with 2 different types of dementias now. What I find is that it's important not to overschedule someone with different types of activities, meaning you can't go from program to program to program in between hygiene and hands-on care. It is overstimulating and actually is counterproductive, often causes more distress and anxiety for someone with dementia. I want you to think about the brain and how it's changing from early to later stages, and it takes much more effort to process information for the person with dementia. And so things that may have been easy and enjoyable, let's say they used to play different card games, that the stress of trying to figure out how to do it, how to keep pace, how to keep score, can actually become much more distressing. So we don't want to overschedule to avoid the fatigue. Allow rest periods in between, especially if someone is, let's say, in a residential facility. To move from one activity to the next is just too much. So I often encourage the use of what I call rest periods. It doesn't mean they have to go to sleep. It's just quiet time, maybe 30 minutes. It's time to stretch out, perhaps if they're sitting for too long, which is my next point. If the person with the dementia is sitting, let's say, in the same chair, the same wheelchair, the same place, from morning until late afternoon with only the opportunity to get up because they're being assisted to the toilet, that can cause a lot of just physical discomfort. Stress on the low back, if you have arthritis or hip problems, it doesn't allow the person with dementia to enjoy the program because they're distracted by pain. So we have to think about the activity and the comfort level of someone. Here's another one. I'm going to encourage you not to have someone just sit all day long and watch a television and go on sort of aimlessly with that. I often recommend no television unless the program is limited, given the fact that the brain can only absorb and process information becomes shortened over time, and find ones that are uplifting and purposeful. Okay. As we're talking about meaningful activities, I want you to think about the continuum and how we should approach integrating different activities as someone moves from the early through the late stages. Early on, more cognitive functions are intact, but then start to change. And so we then begin to look for experiences that are not what I call hypercognitive, that don't require a right or wrong answer. So for example, trivia, being quizzed, looking at history questions, things like that. But focus much more on the emotional, sensory, and spiritual aspects. That will take you a long way about combining and offering different types of ways to spend meaningful time. So again, it moves from cognitive to emotional, sensory, and spiritual areas. So in this picture, I show people doing artwork. Art is a beautiful way to spend time, and it's not a right or a wrong. That's the beauty of it, and various levels of talent. It brings people together socially at times. It could be playing, for example, some dominoes, guided by people who know how to assist with different activities and to be patient and kind and encouraging. When you're looking at activities, what I would like you to do is write down 5 different columns. And it all has to connect with that person's preferences. So in one column, write down leisure and fun. What do people like to do for hobbies? Okay. What do they like to do in terms of sport? Next, what is their work history? Is it business, healthcare, you name it? What is important to them? Being a mother, being a father. Self-care, that's just another word for hygiene practices. What are people's preferences? Do they enjoy showering versus bathing, just washing up? Exercise, that will be an important aspect of activity to keep moving for as long as possible. And then how do people like to rest and relax? Is it through prayer? Is it through breathing exercises? But this is where preferences play a role. So for example, and I apologize in advance to anyone who is a country music fan, if you're going to have me listen to music, that would not be my preference. That would actually make me probably distressed and anxious. So I would prefer more rhythm and blues and jazz. So know the person, know their preferences, and work with those. So let's look at middle stage, because this is when people really start to become challenged in finding more meaningful activities. And I'm going to describe what middle stage kind of looks and feels like. So there's more impairment in multiple cognitive abilities, such as judgment, memory, planning, problem solving, speaking, ultimately movement. It's a time when people are not able to take their own medication safely or drive or cook. They need assistance with just several basic activities of daily living. So it's not just one, but they probably need assistance with a few of these, such as bathing, toileting, dressing, eating, and walking. Difficulty expressing thoughts, needs, and language, should not be left alone. and you're seeing more prevalent changes in mood, personality, and sleep patterns. So if you have a loved one or a patient or resident or client with this stage of dementia, regardless of the type of dementia, I offer a few of these activities for you to consider. All right. And it's really up to you to be as creative as possible. And remember, it's based on their preferences, but I'm going to just call out a few things. Singing is always can be a wonderful way of connection. Singing church hymns, favorite tunes from the teens, being in choir. There are more choirs being developed for people with memory loss. On the picture, I have someone sanding wood, a gentleman sanding wood. Tai Chi, walking, swimming, chair exercises if balance is a problem, dancing, or chair dancing. People need to feel like they have something that they're contributing still, not just being everything done to them, but they're contributing. So that's why having perhaps maybe more stereotypically a gentleman sanding wood, or someone polishing silverware, dusting, washing dishes, folding towels. This often can be repeated over and over again, but it brings some enjoyment and a sense of accomplishment. Think about potting plants or flower arranging, painting, looking at photo albums. As you see, there's no right or wrong here. Listening to books, people can still read until quite into the late stages of the middle stage. Looking at picture books, may not always recognize the people in it, but enjoy hearing stories about individuals and happenings. Spending time with children, praying, breathing exercises, relaxation exercises. So that's a few. So I'm hoping that you're getting some ideas when we talk about middle stage activities. I'm showing a picture of perhaps a mother and his son just holding each other close, dancing, swaying. Aquariums can be a lovely kinetic way of spending time if they're going to be sitting watching something, perhaps an aquarium or an aviary. We have a group of people potting different plants, but sitting chair level in a group. A few thoughts here. Break an activity into smaller steps in order for it to be, quote, successful. For people who have problems with planning and executive functioning, and this is quite evident in people in middle and late stages, it's not helpful to say, okay, time to bake some buns or bread or go and, let's cook a dinner. That's too vague, and quite often the initial response, if you say, do you want to bake bread together? Quite often people will react with the word no. It's almost a knee-jerk reaction. It's not as if they don't want to. The thing is, it's too overwhelming to think about. They don't know what to start, how to start it, what to do next. And this often looks a lot like apathy and depression. So you may have a loved one who is very active, doing lots of community work, volunteer work, and now you find that they are sitting in the same chair, look as if they don't want to do anything, and often say no to your requests. A way of getting around this is to understand what's happening in the brain, and that to think of how to start something is just not possible. So it's up to us to encourage, to bring the materials to them. Say, please, I could use your help. Please help me do this. Or I'm really enjoying making some bread. Can you roll the dough for me? Give them one part, not all of it. Another strategy I use is yes and. Imagine if everything you tried to do during the day, you were met with the word no, don't, stop, you can't. That would be pretty depressing. And you might withdraw and really do nothing because all you're hearing is what you can't do and shouldn't do because you can't do it, you're not doing it right, on and on and on. And so, a strategy that I use to teach caregivers is to start everything with yes, and let's start with rolling the dough or mixing the mashed potatoes. Even if, for example, I have a client who thinks she can cook and she really can't safely, but she can start any way she thinks is appropriate. That might be just taking the raw chicken out and putting it on a burner, right? Yes, and then you distract and now, help me mix this or help me clean this area. So the idea is yes, and. I have a picture of laundry. I have a client who loves or loved to do the laundry, but the sequencing she just can't figure out anymore. So instead of saying, no, you can't do that anymore, Mary, it's yes, and hold on to this towel or fill the soap with this. So it's never no, but it's yes, and. Other ideas for middle stage activities. I'll just call them out. I said mixing cookie dough, salad, mashed potatoes, shucking corn, bird watching, spending time with pets. Oh, they are lovely companions. And even in the later stages, there are more actually robotic pets that I have found that are actually quite enjoyable and people think they're real and they're quite lifelike. Story sharing. There's no right or wrong. Listen to how they're reminiscing. People might just use a few words or phrases, but pay more attention to the tone of voice and co-create the story with them. You can do armchair travel, meaning let's go to Africa today, or let's say we're in Paris, and create stories or talk about times they've spent in the past. People time travel more in the middle and late stages versus being in the present. Have spa days, theme days. Oh, this is great fun. Let's have a day at the beach and all the food, maybe a picnic and smoothies, and you have Caribbean music, or it's a day of going fishing or baseball. Vacation time, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, Christmas, weddings. You can be as creative as you want. But the whole day, from the food to the experience of music and the aromas, could all be related to a particular thing. Individuals also enjoy sorting. There could be nuts and bolts or cards, jewelry, ornaments. Watch if people become hyperoral, meaning they put things in their mouth, then that would not be an appropriate activity, but it doesn't apply to all. With all of these things that you're doing with someone with various types of dementias in the middle stage, remember, you're looking for things with no right or wrong answers. You want to be positive, complimentary, encouraging, and thanking them constantly. Thank you so much. This has been so fun to spend time together singing with you. I have a picture of a grandfather and his granddaughter. Just hugging, spending time. That's an activity. Late stage. Within the late stage, what you're seeing is severe decline in cognitive functioning. And the person does require total assistance with eating, dressing, bathing, toileting, and walking. Often incontinent of bowel and bladder, unaware of surroundings, no meaningful conversation, and eventually lose the ability to swallow. When this happens in the late stages, this is when the dying process is starting. So this can be quite befuddling to many on how to spend time meaningfully, but we can still have meaningful moments for people in the late stages. If you remember that continuum, it moves more towards the emotional, sensory, and spiritual. So here's a few ideas for you. Hand or foot massages with their favorite scented lotion, or unscented, can still smell beautiful flowers or bread or cookies being baked in the background. Again, music plays an incredible role. I have seen people who are just about mute be able to sing old church hymns, and often the second, chorus, or the second verse, I should say. Listening to wind chimes or nature sounds, cuddling pets, cuddling baby dolls. As a matter of fact, the Dementia Society of America, on one of their postings, has this very lifelike infant doll called Grace. When you get a chance, take a look. And I've used this, and especially fathers and mothers who are very nurturing find a lot of comfort in being able to cuddle and hold a baby doll. It's no longer considered a doll, it's considered real in their mind, and if it brings peace and calm, it's a beautiful way to spend time. Holding hands, licking lollipops, ice cream sundaes. Again, this is if they're still swallowing. When a person is no longer able to swallow, focus on senses. But have found that cleaning or cleansing the mouth with sponge with a pineapple juice versus just water or a little bit of toothpaste, look at the senses that remain. The ability to taste does not go away. And how much more enjoyable would it be to have your mouth cleansed with something refreshing like a few drops of pineapple juice? Having your sheets scented with something like lavender. If people are enrolled in hospice care, which is often very appropriate at this late stage, they offer massage and music therapy that come to the home and play beautiful music. So here I have a picture of scented, lavender and chimes. And perhaps this is a hospice music therapist who brings a harp and plays amazing music towards end of life, or bring a guitar. So this is what it means to provide meaningful activities for people, especially in the middle and late stages. Focus on senses, focus on sort of the inward experience. People with the middle and late stages of dementia may not be able to express their love and appreciation, but they sure need it. Until people take their last breath, people need love, they need compassion, and one way we can offer that is through these meaningful experiences. So I'm hoping that gives you a few ideas on how we're learning to care before finding the cure or cures, because we don't have that, but we are learning how to care better for people with different types of dementias in the later stages. If any of you would like additional one-to-one consultation with respect to your situation, please do not hesitate to contact me. My website is called Through the Forest. Forest with 2 R's is a takeoff on my last name. So that's www.throughtheforest.com, or call at 773-704-1834, and I'd be happy to talk about your particular situation. I want to especially thank the Dementia Society of America for supporting this program. And you should know that one of the major benefits of knowing about Dementia Society of America and hopefully supporting them is that there are many, many art and music based programs and therapies and ideas offered on the website. So it's a great resource to know about, and you can, just search around the entire website, but it offers many different ideas too. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now, but that means I open it up to you to send me questions. Okay, so start thinking about any questions you might have that has to do with meaningful activities in the middle and late stages of dementia. And I'm going to stop recording for a moment.